Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dad speaking, and here are some ethical ramblings. My camera seems to be working once again, and this is kind of pleasing to me. I want to talk to you today about ethics. This is my favorite topic on philosophy. As you know, it is a branch of philosophy. Some people regard it as a science, and if considered a science, it is a science of what? It is a science of decision-making, but it's not just any decision-making. You have to understand that ethics is not logistics. Okay? And that's why you don't see any relevance and any utility in considering the ethical good as a valid concept. You're like adopting, and it is a respectable thing to do, I guess. It's fruitless, but it's respectful. You're adopting a non-cognitivist view on the ethical good. It's a concept that makes no sense to you. You can relate to the concept of good as something which is appropriate and practical in regards to a certain objective. So you have a management-based concept of good. I come from a management background myself. I've studied management strategy and logistics. Even I have a stock management degree. So I'm seeing things from the inside. But the logistic good is not the same as the ethical good. So it's no use defining the ethical good in terms of logistics or in terms of practicality, mere practicality. It's confusing, and it's just muddling the waters. We all know that when we say something is good, we mean it like this, and there are presuppositions involved in it, and there's no escaping it. When we say something is good, we mean something is the desirable, and we mean it is the thing that we should or ought to do. This, of course, assumes that it is proper, or it is justified or justifiable to even conceive of an ought, of a should. And many people just opt for a non-cognitivist way of thinking, where they just don't concede to it. They just don't concede. That's respectful, I guess. But ultimately, you're not going to enter the field of ethics, because you have to accept certain presuppositions to begin to discuss ethics. Ethics is an objective thing in the sense that, at least in the sense that it is a discipline that exists and have existed, and concepts have been created, and people have defined those concepts, and people have been dealing with these concepts and have been answering these questions, these specific questions, and have been talking about good in a certain way as stuff that you ought to do, stuff that you should do. Of course, some people justify that you should because of this, some people justify that you should do it because of that, but they don't question the assumption that there is a way that you should do stuff. Of course, if you do not conceive to this idea that there is a way that you should do something, ethics is useless to you. But at least I ask that you guys, you ethical skeptics or ethical non-cognitivists, at least that you think about what stops you from falling into the Nietzschean vampirism trap. This meaning, if everything is moral, in the sense that any goal that you may think of is moral, and ethics is just logistics in the sense that it is just a way, or the most efficient way, or the shortest path to getting to that goal, then you may have any goal, and any goal that you can conceive as moral, or at least amoral. Well, that really means that morality doesn't exist at all. Because if everything is moral, nothing is moral, and if everything is amoral, then there is nothing as a moral thing. You get it? If you don't make certain distinctions, then it is an unproductive, useless, meaningless concept. And yeah, I think you should drop that concept if you cannot extract any value out of it. Of course, we're talking about theoretical, we're talking about systematic, conceptual ways of looking into the world, and I would argue something that is very important also to consider. When you guys say that the thought doesn't affect what is, or mind does not determine reality, that's all fine and dandy, and I totally am 100% behind you in that what I think of a physical external reality has no bearing in what the external physical reality is, the way it functions, its nature, okay? But you gotta understand something. Your thoughts do have implications, do have consequences, and can ultimately change reality. How? That's a perfectly valid question. How does your thoughts, your mind, alter reality? It alters it indirectly, and it alters it through yourself, through your physical body. Your thoughts inform your actions. Your beliefs inform your decision-making, and then you translate that decision, those decisions that you have come to, in actions, in physical actions, physical behaviors. And those actions, those behaviors are the interaction of your physical body with other physical objects. And that way you do affect reality in a certain way determined by your thoughts. So when people say that mind alters reality, you got to understand what the hell you're talking about. It's not enough to just dismiss it as wishful thinking, because it is not. They're not. Some people, when they say that thoughts have influence over what is, are not talking about a mentalist philosophy where consciousness builds reality. But you can't understand what is true about that kind of thinking. It's called the charity principle. The charity principle consists of people listening to others and asking, above all, what can be true about this? How is this true? Is there any way this can be true? This is the most fecund, productive, useful way of interacting that I know. So these are just some thoughts I wanted to put out there for people. This in no way exhausts what I have to say about these topics. I haven't covered them at all. These are just random thoughts about ways of thinking and the necessity of meaning, the necessity of correct or productive or useful concepts, and how concepts can indirectly, through your body, determine parts of physical reality too. So keep in touch. Okay, so I've been revising the video. I've put it in fast mode. I'm even And as usual, I've done some leaps in my reasoning. I started talking about certain topics, and then I didn't move those topics to its logical conclusion. I dropped it in the middle of the field. So, for instance, the Nietzschean vampirism thing. I couldn't find any formalized definition of it on the internet. But what I mean is the kind of ethical system where everything is admissible, and your self-interest is the only ingredient that you consider when making decisions. This, of course, would rationally lead you to the conclusion that cheating, lying, robbing, raping, whatever it may be, is admissible just because, well, you have a personal preference to do those things. Or maybe because you have a personal preference to, let's say, blow Qtron Man's face, and just because you do have that personal preference, the rational thing to do is to buy a shotgun and, be stealthy and to manage to do it. This means that the only considerations, the ethical considerations, would be the most practical, efficient way to do it. Well, would that be ethical? I don't think so. So that's kind of what I mean. It's not enough to talk about what you personally prefer. You have to have yourself as the starting point, and maybe even as the ending point of your ethical thinking. But going back, when I said practicality, ethics was not just about what's practical. I don't mean that practicality is not a very strong ingredient in ethics. Of course I do not. Ethics is a lot about what's practical, but it doesn't exhaust itself in what's practical. That's all I meant. If you just think about what is practical, you will never understand what is ethical, because ethical is not synonymous with practical, even though practicality accounts for much of ethics justification. So that's all I mean. I may not have answered everything I had said, but we'll have plenty of chances to deepen these issues. So be cool and keep on rocking.
And God knows I've got to live mine. God knows.